This video is about the resentment of the masculine. More specifically, especially in this video, the masculine energy. What you're seeing or what we experiencing is throughout society, you've been noticing yourself probably, is women being accepted in certain positions, people accepting their feminine side more than before, more than ever. You see this in society at large. You see this through media as well, right? But throughout this period, I get the sense that there is this anger and resentment, still anger and resentment towards the masculine energy and towards men, right? When we think about masculine or masculinity, or we think about masculine energy, we think about men. Um, I don't. I look at masculine energy um, um, being included in both genders or any gender. I don't specifically view masculine energy or masculinity at large focus on one gender, but society looks at it that way. Humanity looks at it that way, so I'm gonna describe it that way sometimes throughout this video. So there is this still anger, there is this still resentment towards anything masculine. You'll find this especially with some women. There are men out there that um, are resentful towards their own masculinity as well. But you find this prevalent in some circles with women, right? Who have this still anger or this resentment towards men or anything masculine, right? Um, I mean, this has always been there. That resentment, that anger has always been there, but in a minute scale, right? Now that humanity and society at large, the world at large, the collective at large is exploring their feminine side. Um, there is this resentment towards men. There is this resentment towards the masculine, and the way humanity and society always operates, there's always this polarity, right? Instead of seeing things as a spectrum, there's always this pol polarity occurring um, within society and humanity at large, right? We haven't um, evolved or moved past that polarity yet, right? This is to say polarity is not something negative, um, but humanity and society looks at two different experiences as being one going against the other. So in this case, it's the feminine going against the masculine. It's the men going against the women, right? And it comes in many different forms, right? It comes in many different forms. You can see this again in society, throughout society, and human and the world at large. You can see it in the media at large, or any circle, sports, workplace, um, entertainment, the spiritual community, right? You see this, right? You might have experienced this resentment yourself, right? Or you're probably yeah, you might have experienced this resentment yourself. You might be resentful towards the masculine. I have sometimes at moments, and if I don't catch myself, right? Um, because we always have this tendency to put things against something else, right? If we go on the other end of the polarity, we view that polarity as going against the other side of the polarity, right? Instead of seeing them as harmonizing poles, harmonizing polarities, right? Why is there this resentment and this anger towards the masculine? Why is this resentment towards the men? Um, it's only because we only see what humanity and society has built so far, right? What the collective has built so far, right? Throughout history, there's been this masculine dominated, men dominated societies throughout our histories, right? And we see the negatives of this history, right? We only see the negatives. We don't forgive that side of us, of what has occurred or what is currently occurring, right? And we and it's holding us back from learning, truly learning how to transform what has happened in terms of this side of our history, right? We we only look at the negative, which it blinds our view, right? But I ask you to do this instead. Instead of looking at the negative, look what we have built so far. When I say we, I mean as a collective. I'm not talking about just men in general, right? Because women played a part as well in terms of building a society. All right, building the structures of society. When we think of structures, we think of something masculine, um, something masculine, right? Something that we've built. So, in terms of society, the world that you live in currently, which benefits you, right? No matter how much you look at it, doesn't matter how the way you look at it. You could look at it in a negative way. Yes, it benefits you in a certain degree because you're currently living in it, right? And life is a gift in itself, right? And so that structure is is holding, right? Holding that gift that you're living through currently, right? And again, we could look at it. We could look at it in different perspectives, in a negative perspective and a positive perspective. But this is a neutral perspective where you can't deny that there are structures that have been built, that have stayed, that are rooted currently in your lifetime, in this life that you're living in, that benefits you, that benefits your life currently, no matter what you're going through, right? And if we look at it like that, we can forgive our masculine side in each and every one of us. We can forgive our masculinity, right? We could forgive our masculine energy, right? We could forgive that and accept that part of us, right? We could accept that part of our unconscious masculine side, right? Because we're still learning. It's still a learning process. All of us is learning how to how to use our masculine aspects of ourselves, right? We're still learning, right? This life on earth is all about learning. So the men are learning to be masculine. It is a slow process, and humanity has a way of making many mistakes before we learn, right? So you need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive the past. You need to forgive all the men of the past, the masculinity of the past, the masculine aspects of humanity of the past. You need to forgive that because we come into this world um, to learn, to understand ourselves, to come back to ourselves. coming back to our conscious masculinity. And there's this process, ongoing process, and this process is still continuing. The unconscious, the unconscious is there for you to look at so that it can help you become more conscious. So if you're seeing this is just an example. If you're seeing unconscious men, unconscious aspects of men being projected out onto the world, think to yourself that these people are still learning. These men are still learning to be men. These these men are still learning to to be their true masculine selves. These men are still learning to learn about their masculine aspects of themselves. They're not Men are not evil. Masculinity is not evil. Masculine energy is not evil. Masculine energy is there. Masculinity is there. Men are there to balance out the feminine, balance out the women, balance out the feminine energy. So if we don't forgive that part of us, which it is part of us because we're part of this collective, the unconscious aspects of men are still part of us because they're still part of the collective. I'm still part of this collective. It's still part of us. We all have masculine part aspects of us that are unconscious, including the woman or any other gender. And so when we forgive that part in someone else, we can forgive ourselves and accept that part of us that we need to still understand. All of us still need to understand because we're still learning that masculine part of ourselves, right? We can't fully go straight into the feminine without balancing out our masculine or accepting our masculine, because only anger will persist, only resentment will persist, which is what I am witnessing, what I'm witnessing, what I'm experiencing currently, and maybe you're experiencing this as well, right? There's this thing going on where um you'll find this in some circles where some circles are discussing how what it is to be a man, right? Kind of like this. There's this little crisis. I don't like that word crisis. I don't believe in that. There's this crisis of where right now the definition of being a man is being questioned, right? Because our definition of being a man before is only being looked at right now, right? But what is happening right now? It's just a learning process. We're right now understanding what is masculinity. We are masculinity. Our masculinity in ourselves is going through growth during this period, even though we're moving towards m- moving towards the feminine aspect of ourselves. There's a current balancing of the masculinity. That is what is occurring, right? But our resentment and our anger towards masculinity is only going to slow that process, and it's only going to be a detriment to masculinity in itself. It's only going to be a detriment to men in itself, right? So if you're someone that leans towards being a feminine, if you're a woman, if you're someone that leans any gender that leans towards your feminine, all you're doing is balancing out your masculine. And that only occurs when you're not angry or you're not resentful towards your masculine, towards any man, towards your masculine energy. Because masculinity is there for structure, right? It has provided structure for this world, and that you cannot resent, that you cannot be angry towards. It has provided a structure for your life, which is a gift. It has quietly held with all your resentment, with all your anger. It has quietly held all of that, and held you up so that you don't fall, right? But your anger and resentment will be a detriment to what? A detriment to you and your growth, because that is an aspect of you that you have to accept by forgiving first. Whether a man hurt you in the past, or a boy hurt you in the past, or something masculine hurt you in the past, right? You have to forgive that part of you, because it's always going to be there. It's always going to be in this world. It's just evolving into something that what it truly is supposed to be. And the feminine is helping that in that aspect. That is what the feminine is there for, to balance out the masculine. And that is what is occurring. That is what is trying to occur right now. And the masculine is balancing out the feminine as well. The men balance out the women balance out the men. If you're a woman, if you consider yourself a woman, if you have um dominant feminine traits, maybe you should ask yourself, what do I want to see in masculinity? And it's going to be different answers for everybody, right? But just ask yourself that. What do I want to see in masculinity within myself and within others, maybe men, for example? What do I want? What do I want to see with the men? What do I want to see with boys? What do I want to see in the masculine? And make sure that you can act that out within yourself. If you're the feminine, if you're the woman, and if you're a man, or if you have masculine dominant traits, not gender specific, you should always ask, what do I want to see in a woman? What do I want to see in someone who has? What do I want to see in femininity? What is true femininity to me? Ask yourself that, and bring it out in others. Right. That is what I meant. Acted out when I was um, referring to the women. Bring that out in the men. Bring that out in the boys with your energy. Bring that out with masculinity. It's your job to bring it out instead of holding that anger and resentment. Bring that out with masculinity. And masculinity should bring the feminine out, right? Bring out the true femininity out with femininity, with women, with girls. Thank you for watching this video.